Okay, I think we're underway. Hello, thanks for being here. I'm Kelsey Warner, the future editor at the national newspaper, where I cover tech and trends reshaping society. I'm sitting here in our podcast studio. Hello, I'll be moderating today's info session on an exciting new program taking shape at Hub71. Ventures Lab is for entrepreneurs, formed by a partnership between Hub71 and Modus Capital. So to get us started and help us learn more about the application process, we're joined today by Nader Museitif, Head of Products and Business Development at Hub71, and Kareem Elsirafy, Managing Partner at Modus Capital. Hi, guys.
Hey, Kelsey.
Hey, Kelsey.
Good to see you both. Kareem, I want to have you start us off. Can you provide an overview of Modus Capital and the idea behind creating venture labs with Hub71?
Yeah, absolutely. Background on Modus Capital, we're effectively entrepreneurs turned venture builders and investors. We have a pretty long track record in the US of building successful companies, including a unicorn. And we really thought to ourselves, how can we support entrepreneurs in a more in-depth and meaningful way, right? Take the experiences that we've had and essentially, again, apply those to support entrepreneurs and their companies. So at Modus, we have effectively 3 business units. One is Ventures Lab, which is the venture builder, which we'll dig into quite a bit more today. The second is a venture fund, which invests in both companies that come out of the venture lab, in addition to direct investments on an opportunistic basis in regular startups. And then last is corporate innovation, where we try to support corporates for their internal strategic objectives with a very similar venture builder model.
Oh my God, how am I still muted in 2021? Thank you for the overview on Modus. Can you dig in a bit more to Ventures Lab and its presence soon to be in Abu Dhabi?
Yeah, so we're really excited about partnering with Hub71, a leading innovation ecosystem. And what's really great is they are not just bringing innovation into Abu Dhabi and the region, but they're actually being innovative, right? This is a fairly new model to the region, and their partnership with us in doing that and setting up a venture builder is, I think, is a testament to their forward thinking and again. Thought on innovation. So the program itself is anywhere from 9 months to 20 months. And what we do is we essentially partner with subject matter experts who either understand an industry very, very well and have an idea that they want to test and see if it makes sense for it to be a viable startup company, in addition to founders who have maybe an early MVP, minimal viable product, and they need a little bit more in-depth on-hand support from a partner. What we do is we actually deploy operational resources. So we're essentially a full team. Imagine if we are a full, let's say, developed startup team, and we supplement the co-founder or the founding team with any operational gaps that they may have, right? So again, it could be somebody at an idea stage where it's just them and a co-founder and they have the idea, and they're, let's say, they have a business background, but they don't really have a background in technology. They don't have a background in marketing, for example, or product management. And then what we do is we would come in, we would supplement their team, support them with that operational hands-on support. And it's not just high-level guidance. It's no, we're actually like building with you. We are an extension of you as if we are your internal team. And that goes through, that's applicable to other types of expertise as well. You can be a software developer who's built a great product, but you need help on the business side and maybe on the marketing side, or you can be a small team, right? You're 5, 6, 7 people, and what you see that you've figured out like a good portion of what it is that you need to do, but you still need a little bit of extra help and extra boost, and that's where essentially Modus comes in and Venture Labs comes in with Hub71, providing our complementary support.
I'm curious. Okay, I like to live in the universe of like real world examples, and I'm sure that there's no one perfect Ventures Lab candidate, but if you could kind of just give a run through of like one example of, say, a subject matter expert who goes through it, say, a 9-month sprint with you guys, what might that look like?
Sure, it's a great question. So let's say you are a 20-year veteran at a bank, right? So you understand that industry extremely well. And let's say, although there are many electronic, eKYC companies out there, let's say you understand this industry very well. You see there's a pain point for the bank that it's experiencing through your time there and your tenure there, and you have an idea to solve that problem. Okay, so you say, okay, if we're able to digitize a KYC process, a know your customer process, this would significantly reduce the manpower required at the bank. It would be very, very convenient. It allows them to sign customers up remotely and expand their market reach. So they would come as a subject matter expert. They would say, hey, I understand this industry very well. Here's a problem. Here's what I think a solution could be. And then what we would do initially is we would leverage their knowledge and we would begin to validate, right? And that's the first phase of the program. So we would take all of their assumptions, any insights and data or research that they've done. We would challenge those assumptions. We would build on top of it with some of our own research methodologies to really determine if there is enough validation to warrant this as a concept, right? Both as a viable concept to solve that problem, and then also as a commercial opportunity to take it in the market. Is there a demand for it in the market, and is that demand big enough to warrant building a startup, and is it for it to be worth both ours and the founder's time? So after we achieve that phase, we then go to the product minimal viable product definition phase. From there, these are the feature sets that we need to be able to bring in a minimal viable product out to the market. We would take that, hand it over to the tech team in the second phase. The tech team would then do all of the venture building. And at the same time, the business and the marketing teams would, one, prepare a go-to-market strategy, two, financial model, business model, canvas, et cetera, in addition to investment preparedness, assuming that this is successful after we launch it. They're going to most likely need additional growth capital. So we would work with the founders while that's happening. And then the last phase is actually taking it to the market, see how the market responds, capture that data, assess, and then begin going through these iteration cycles, right? And the goal of that is to kind of build this well-oiled machine that takes the data, processes it in the right way, and then we re-strategize, we redevelop the product, we reintroduce it to the market with the updates and enhancements, and again, get that incremental growth and those incremental wins to help the company grow.
So helpful. Thank you. I knew you could answer that. Okay, Nader, bringing you in, bring it into like our backyard over at Hub71. Talk to us about why Hub71 is kind of ready to bring something like Ventures Lab into an ecosystem that's been, in process, under construction for the last few years.
Thank you, Kelsey. Yeah, as you know, Hub71 we launched a couple of years ago, and the mission is to build this tech ecosystem and have a vibrant community of founders, entrepreneurs, building those companies and thriving out of Abu Dhabi and out of Hub71. So as we've been attracting, again, the last couple of years since we launched, we've been attracting 100 plus early stage companies from the seed and Series A stages. We're thinking, as we develop the offering and grow this proposition from Hub71 to different founders, to focus a bit on the earlier stage. So how can we support founders, and probably first-time founders who have ideas, who have track record, who have expertise in specific subject matters, and want to start a business and launch something? How do we help them do that in Hub71? Provide them the tools, provide them the team, provide them the skill sets they need to get on that journey and get started, and help them de-risk that journey, if you like, from day one. Because if you're a first-time founder, you don't know where to go to develop an app or develop a website. You don't know who to work with on growth marketing. You know what it means to fundraise. So giving you that platform and support to help you get on those first steps, build an MVP, build a product, go to market, becomes very important and very interesting for these founders. So the idea here is to build that in Hub71, help founders come to Hub71, and even go expand our offering to the earlier stage of the story to support there. And then once they're finished, from that 9-month program, seeing how can we support them further, so the journey continues and doesn't end there. And that's where the value of Hub71 comes, in the sense that you build it, you go to market, you have the MVP, but now you have other things you can leverage in Hub71, whether it's the accelerator programs, it could be the the Outliers program we launched, could be the corporate engagement, and several other things that we offer to continue making sure that you're succeeding, and we help you succeed throughout that journey in different stages.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that later. I want to talk to both of you just about your respective roles throughout the experience. But Kareem, I want to dig into this idea of venture building because it's a phrase we're using and sort of bandying about, and it feels a little jargony to me, if I'm being honest, as a journalist. So if you could talk to me about what venture building means and why it's different from just starting a business, or if it's the same, why is it the same?
Sure. Yeah, never a shortage of buzzwords, right? So venture building, there's a couple different models in venture building, right? There's the type of venture builder where a company focuses on a venture builder focuses on one or two companies long term, like for years, right? And they spin it out, right? There's another type of venture building that is only strategic to an organization, right? We're going to create products or solutions that just help us as a big organization. Venture building is, for us, it's taking that 70 to 80% of the systematic processes that are required and knowledge and frameworks that are required to build any early stage company that's shared. It's the same, right? It doesn't matter what region you're in. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, right? There are some very core basic principles like, corporate finance, right? Corporate finance is industry and region agnostic, right? And it's taking that and essentially offering that as an in-depth operational service to support co-founders, right? To support entrepreneurs. The main difference here, if you're going to go and you're going to start a business like Nader mentioned, you're going to need a lot of resources, right? And that's really what a startup is. It's resource management, right? Both financial resources, human capital, and how do we strategically deploy those resources in a way that gets us as far along as possible so that we can continue to get this incremental growth. And what venture building does is it A, provides those resources, and then B, gives the guidance into how do you actually leverage them in the most efficient way. So that's really like the nuts and bolts of venture building, taking that 70, 80% and then applying it to multiple contexts.
Interesting. So I want to talk now about just the details of the application process, sort of the nitty-gritty part of this in terms of like just criteria. I think probably both of you can answer this. What are you looking for from applicants, first and foremost?
I'll start with a couple. One is it can't, like, applicants should really have, they should have something like pretty well defined as far as an idea, right? Ventures Lab, it's not a platform for you to come and essentially try to figure out like an idea. We're not trying to create ideas. We're trying to take ideas and then create businesses out of them, right? So having that like fairly well defined as far as like problem solution, right? And having an understanding of the market, and this is where that subject matter expertise comes in. We think that's really critical, right? On the other end of the spectrum is, companies that are a lot more mature, that are revenue generating, they have different problems, right? Yes, we could technically deploy resources for a company that's been in the market for, let's say, 3 or 4 years and has, a 30-person team, but that's not where we're going to provide the most value, right? Because they've already got a very strong foundation. They probably need a little bit more like high-level strategic advice. There's probably another program at Hub71 that's a better fit for them. So I think for that at the early stage, that's some of the main requirements that we look for.
Are you guys tech agnostic or sector agnostic, or what are your preferences in terms of what sort of industries people are in?
That's a great question. So we are industry agnostic, but the one thing that we can't really provide a lot of value is in hardware, right? So if the core product is a hardware product or there's a major dependency on hardware that has to be produced, that's really outside of our area of expertise. But think about all things digital, right? Anything from fintech, regulatory tech, med tech, ed tech, enterprise SaaS, direct-to-consumer products and marketplaces. These are all things where we can provide a lot of value added. In addition to, think about where technology can be a value added for a core business, right? It could be a traditional business that wants to expand by adding a layer of technology that adds to its commercialization. So this as an overall kind of a focus is where we like to look.
Nader, I don't know if you want to weigh in on that in terms of what Hub71 will be looking for. And actually, if you could answer the question of who will actually be reading the applications. Is it Modus Capital making the final decision? Does Hub71 have any kind of say over applicants?
Yeah, sure. So I think on your question earlier, Kelsey, from our side, it's important for us to build a community of committed, dedicated, and promising founders and tech talent, right, in the hub. So when we look at the companies coming in, we want to make sure that these founders are dedicated. They know what it takes to start a business and build it and take it to new levels every day and every year, and then make sure they're part of the community. So they are part of a community that shares knowledge, that interacts with each other, that supports each other. And that's the case now with the hub. If you come to the hub now, you find a very interesting community that's very vibrant and very active in different ways with hub and between themselves and with the stakeholders, whether it's government, investors, corporates, etc. So that matters for us. And of course, we want to make sure that these founders are able to face the challenges that they're gonna confront and work in a team and build a team and be strong leaders in Hub71 and in Abu Dhabi. In terms of who looks at the applications, it's a joint. So clearly, Modus is doing their work to screen and understand and evaluate this application from a technical perspective, but we're also working with them to see there's a fit with Hub71 and the community of Hub71.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a point. Sorry, I apologize. On Nader's point about the commitment. One of the value adds that we do is taking a step to be an entrepreneur. It's very risky and it's very scary, right? Like an entrepreneur is it's like jumping off a cliff without a parachute and like figuring it out on the way down, right? So, what we're here to do is we're here to de-risk as much as possible. We de-risk for investors by supporting the entrepreneurs, and we also de-risk for the entrepreneurs themselves, right? So having that comfort, knowing that there's a well-versed team that has done this before. We're the subject matter experts in venture building, right? And you are the one in the industry. That's what we bring, right? And we bring, the co-founder commitment, and in return, right, we definitely look for that to be reciprocated. So, the commitment level from the founder is of course critical. And, that's usually what you find with most founders, right? They're super passionate about something. They understand something very, very well. And therefore that usually is reflected in how they operate.
I want to talk about just timing in terms of application deadline and turnaround on answers for who's in and who's not accepted for this cohort, and when the cohort plans to start.
Sure. So for the timing so the application, it's going to be a rolling application. So it doesn't have like an open date or a close date. And this gives people kind of the opportunity to, maybe make decisions a little bit later in the year, et cetera. So it's fairly flexible there. The application process takes somewhere between 2 to a maximum, I would say, of 3 weeks, unless there's probably going to be some exceptions and some outliers where we may need additional information. But for us, what we're really focused on is over communicating with the applicants, right? Letting them know as soon as possible, letting them know what is this initial stage of the application, the second, the third, et cetera. So it's really like the hand-holding actually even starts, and the support even starts from the early application phase.
Nader, I don't know if you want to weigh in on that, but I also just want to get into your advice for how applicants can kind of set themselves apart. What are you guys going to be looking for from applicants, and what advice you have to give to everyone here for how to get an edge?
Yeah, I mean, again, important to highlight that the applicants have that founder DNA. They're passionate about what they're proposing. They understand the challenges that they're going to face, but they're also, willing to, roll up their sleeves and get down and dirty with these things. So to understand how to tackle these the challenges as they face them, build products, solve problems as they come, and build a team. It's important that as a founder you can inspire teams, you can build them, grow them, and build a culture that's sustainable and successful. So that's important for us. And then we want to also ensure that they leverage and tap into the Hub71 ecosystem and community beyond just what you get in the studio. There's a bunch of layers above that in terms of how you can leverage what the community provides you in terms of working with mentors, working with investors, working with other programs, and leveraging some of those commercial interactions that they can create as they grow and as they become businesses.
Yeah, I want to dig into what role each of you will play in the program. Kareem, can you just answer the question of what you're going to be looking for in terms of applicants and any advice you have for applicants?
So the one piece of advice is if you're considering applying, apply, right? Don't let fear or it's a really big step. Like I get it, I've been there multiple times. So if there's no right or wrong here. So if you do have an idea, if you do have a concept, if you do believe that you have something that can be of value to business, consumer, et cetera, definitely go through and apply. You're not losing anything by it. Again, what we look for is the level of commitment, a certain amount of expertise in a specific industry. Not coming in to brainstorm what to do, but knowing that this is my North Star and this is what I'm trying to solve for. Right. The best startups are really ones that solve problems. Okay, here's a problem. Here's an idea for a solution. We will help you figure out what that solution is and develop that solution idea, right? As a product, as a business model, as a strategy, as a piece of tech, whatever the case may be. But again, those are really the core foundational elements.
It's interesting. I think probably the question you most often get is it okay to apply with just an idea? And it's very difficult to define an idea. But I think you did a sort of good job of saying it needs to kind of address a challenge. It needs to have an application or a product underlying it. It can't just be something that you've been noodling on.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
I mean, it feels a bit like an abstract. And Nader, what I'm hearing really from you is Hub71's value on team building and being a contributor to culture, which I find really interesting. Just want to highlight those two things that I'm hearing. The other question I have for both of you, and Gaith in the Q&A box also kind of asked this, is kind of what's in it for both of you guys? What is Modus Ventures looking for out of Ventures Lab? And for Hub71 too, what are you looking for out of this cohort?
Yeah, so maybe I'll start. For us, as you know, Kelsey, we're building, again, an ecosystem. We want to have a cluster of technology founders, tech talent, doing this in Abu Dhabi and contributing to the wider economy and impacting the tech sector in Abu Dhabi and the UAE. So that's important for us. We want to build that further, make sure we're honing strong founders, developing strong people who can build businesses and grow them out of Abu Dhabi and Hub71. So that's important for us. That's what the impact is for Hub71. And then, of course, once we see that picking up, you'll see a great multiplier effect in terms of talent, technology, hiring, innovation, working with corporates. The multipliers become very interesting when you have those companies starting to grow and fundraise and hire, etc. So that's a very important element that we continue to focus on, and we've done fantastic work on it so far with regards to achieving some of those key milestones for the hub and for the tech ecosystem in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, and also to build off of what Nader shared, at Modus, we are ultimately an investor. We have investors that actually cover the operational expenses, the ad spend, et cetera. So for us, it is an equity-based program, right? So I'm sure the question is, okay, how much equity, right? And this kind of goes back to what I alluded to earlier as far as the operational deployment of resources. this is not a one size fits all model. Every company's different. Every group of founders have different needs, and as a result, the equity is also different, right? Every program is tailored to that unique company, that unique founder, that unique idea, and what it is that they need. And there is correlating equity that is required for them to come in, but it's no different essentially than having going and hiring a CTO who's going to be taking some equity, right? Or a head of marketing that's going to be taking some equity, right? What we do is, we bring in the continuity of having that all in one team, operational frameworks, it's a well-oiled machine. And at the same time, we're also educating the entrepreneurs on best practices.
I want to move over to, this was somewhat asked, the anonymous attendee asked, will the accepted companies in the program have access to the free office space and housing that Hub71 is becoming so famous for? I do want to just ask both of you what sort of incentives or support is offered, because Kareem, to your previous point, this is like a bit jumping off a cliff for 9 months, or at least 9 months. So yeah, what kind of support might applicants expect from both parties?
Yeah, maybe I'll tackle the incentives bit. I think the incentive program is clearly a separate program and a separate application. Everyone is welcome to apply to that, and we have specific criteria for those applications and that program. What I'd also like to say is during the program, of course, they can work out of Hub71. They're welcome to be there, and then that's what we want it to be, an on-the-ground program physically in Hub71. And at any point in time, as these founders come in, establish their companies, and go through the different milestones in the program, the Ventures Lab, they can at any time apply to the incentive program and be considered for those. But of course, we'd love to see that continuity between the Ventures Lab and the incentives and all the other programs we want to offer. We want them to leverage as much as possible from that, but different applications at different times.
And on the Modus side, I think I probably talked quite a bit about what we provide within the program, right? Tailored operational expertise. Post-program, there's a couple of things that we provide. One is we have our venture fund, which would provide follow-on funding to companies, ensuring that there's continuity in the financial and in turn, operational resources they need to continue that growth journey, right? It's not, a cliff and then it just ends, right? The second thing is we can't be your co-founding team forever, right? So you're going to have to build that internal team at some point, and that's one of the other functions that we do is, we begin building a pipeline for each company of people who are vetted by us that can essentially be good teammates for them, right? So we build a talent pipeline. And that talent pipeline is able to be tapped into by the entrepreneurs, by the founders. Of course, it's their company, it's their decision. We can assess them from a skill set perspective, but it's on them to make sure that they're a cultural fit. They're the ones building the culture of the company, the vision, et cetera. But we do support, again, in that transitionary phase at the end of the program.
Yeah, hiring is probably a huge component of any kind of venture, but I'm thinking too, $450,000 is a figure I sometimes see attached to Modus. Can you dig into that figure a little bit and what that means? Or I know I've seen it somewhere, but I'm not sure where or why.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the financial commitment amount that goes into each company, right? Not all companies make it through the entire part. So in the beginning, right, there's a phase where we do the R&D that I mentioned, right, and that consumer insights or insights and validation phase. And there is a earmarked amount of money that goes in to do that testing, right? And that's the first and really biggest risk that we take. After that, if we determine at that inflection point that it's a go and that we should continue on, there's another tranche of money that comes in, and that goes to building the MVP, that goes to marketing, to ad spend, to the branding, et cetera, and taking that product out and then iterating on it in the market. And then there's actually a post 9 month edition that founders have the option to opt in, and that's essentially called a sprint to Series A, right? And then what that is, it's an additional about $250,000 that goes in, and that goes to pay the founder's salary. And again, more ad spend, more resources, helping them again pay salaries to mobilize their internal team, and really becomes that segue. But not all founders are going to capitalize on that. Some are going to be, okay, after this initial 9-month program, we're confident that we've got this, right? And then we can go and we can kind of take that continuity and continue the growth of that company on our own.
Nader, I don't know if you want to weigh in on that, Kareem. That was a great answer. Thank you. I have a dozen more questions. So Nader, if you have nothing to add, I'll keep rolling.
Yeah, let's keep going. And I'm seeing a lot of Q&A in the
there's a lot of questions.
Yeah, so happy
yeah, it's adding up.
Okay, so something that I think there's some shared commonality in some of these questions, which is how might Hub71 support, approaching maybe other private sector partners or go-to-market strategy to, bring products to the UAE or the broader region. I think that's one of the questions.
Well, from our side, a big focus for us is helping startups with access to market and access to revenues and revenue opportunities. And we do that through our corporate engagement program, where we have about 7 or 8 very large corporates, whether international or local, the likes of MasterCard, Aldar, ADCB, Etihad Airlines, Etisalat, and so on. And these are very, very innovation-focused corporates that have very clear mandates and want to work with startups and early stage companies to help them, access markets quickly, but also helps the corporates access that innovation and adopt that innovation in their products and services, and help them on their journeys to transform through their digitization or to offer extra products. So that interaction is important, and we continue to see success stories between our startups and our corporates on this front. So this will be no different, and any founder or startup going through the Ventures Lab will definitely benefit and be introduced to those corporates and those opportunities.
I'd like to just flag to somebody that I would love for the application link to just get dropped into the chat at some point. I don't have access to it, but if somebody who does could just do that, and with all kind of the relevant email addresses, I think that there's like a growing chorus for just send us a link to apply at this point. So my other question is around just Ventures Lab and its space in the Abu Dhabi startup ecosystem in terms of attracting local talent and building a broader range of diverse startup founders here in the Emirate. Nader, can you talk a little bit about what Hub71's efforts kind of have been so far, but where Ventures Lab comes into play here?
Sure. So if you like some statistics, about 50% of our startups on Hub71 were UAE startups. So these are startups that launched in the UAE. The other 50% are startups that launched outside of the UAE, and whether in MENA or US or Europe, and are looking to use the Hub71 program and platform as a regional expansion springboard. So that's great, and we see the diversity, and that reflects clearly the UAE and Abu Dhabi's diversity and different nationalities we have in the country. What we're looking to do in this specific program is enable any other entrepreneur, of course, looking to set up a business, or potential founders to set up companies, but also see how we can also entice, for example, Emiratis, young Emiratis, professional Emiratis who have a passion for entrepreneurship, probably have been in employment for a while and want to jump to the this entrepreneurship side. So we want to help give them that platform to support them there. We want to see how can we also support females in exploring entrepreneurship further, because we know that there's a lot more work to be done on getting more female founders into the space, not just here, but in many places. So we want to create that way for them. And this is a fantastic way for them to consider building their ideas and doing it in a safe way, in a de-risked manner, with the support of Ventures Lab in terms of the expertise, the skill sets, as well as the funding, of course. So all these coming together should, I will continue to push to those specific
Kareem, I actually want to ask you sort of similarly, but I mean, Modus is, as far as I'm aware, headquartered in New York. You've got also an office in Dubai, but like, why Abu Dhabi? Why now? Why are you enticed to join with Hub71 right now?
So yeah, we do have an office in New York and an office in Cairo as well. You know, for us, I think I alluded to it earlier in the conversation. Hub71 is really, and the Abu Dhabi ecosystem, they're really pushing the boundaries and being innovative themselves, right? And being innovative, you know, inherently entails taking risk, right? And venture building is a fairly new concept to the region, right? So if you think about, you know, Hub71's partnering with us, irrespective of our track record, right? That's a pretty big risk that they're taking. Is very innovative, right? It's something that's very innovative. So I think one aspect of it is it's the lens in which they look through, right, on to support and to actually garner a very strong ecosystem. We share that lens, right? We look through the same lens. Second is they've done an incredible job, again, of mobilizing stakeholders and players in the ecosystem to provide that community that can support, you know, the entrepreneurs. Because for us, you know, it's the amount of effort that we put into supporting the entrepreneurs. We want that kind of also reciprocated and continued by our partners, right? If it was, you know, if things were different and it wasn't as innovative as an ecosystem with as many stakeholders that they have and all of these, you know, additional value added, it wouldn't be beneficial for us, right? Because we want to essentially partner with those who have the you know, the best foundation for the companies to thrive and really capitalize on.
I think we've answered like the who, the what, the why, and the when. I think the only one we haven't answered yet is where. People are asking, do you have to be headquartered at ADGM? Do you have to be physically present in Abu Dhabi?
Yeah, so the studio and then the Ventures Lab is running in Abu Dhabi and Hub71. In terms of physical presence, things are, you know, pretty much back to almost normal. We are there, and the team is there, so we'd love that for that engagement to also happen there. And of course, yes, if you start building that company and you want to establish a license and set up, ADGM is where we operate and is the jurisdiction. So you would like to maybe set up an ADGM license, and that's where things start, and then the investments and so on will be within that entity preferably. So yes, there's a focus on Abu Dhabi and Hub71 presence.
But for people to apply, they do not have to have an existing entity at ADGM.
No, they can build that and set it up later.
But you need a willingness to head on over to Al Maria Island and set up shop.
What better place to be?
That is a requirement. Okay. And in terms of day-to-day interaction, once people are physically in situ, Kareem, can you give us kind of a peek inside, like a normal day for a Ventures Lab participant? I'm sure there's no normal day, but what might it be like if you're there?
It'll be a combination of looking at every day, looking at the micro, like what you have to do that day, like what are my tasks to achieve for the day to get that incremental kind of growth, and then always taking a step back and looking at the macro big picture too, right? Because one of the things that's critical to a startup success is, you know, the balance between, you know, and the connectivity between what you're doing every day and your end goal, right? And what you're trying to achieve. If you stay too far in the weeds, you're going to kind of swerve off track. It'll be a combination of that, right? And that, what does that look like as far as operational expertise? It could be sitting down with, you know, a designer or a product manager and looking at the features that are going to be built on a product, looking at user journey, prototype, saying, if a user was to go through this journey, right, does that alleviate the pain point, or how can it be better, right? You're the subject matter expert, share that with us, right? And then taking a step back out in the macro, it's like, okay, let's look at the strategy. You want to be able to target this industry. You're going to need, it's very, let's say, consumer marketing heavy. So we have to build a digital marketing funnel that requires ad spend. Let's build out a financial model. How much money are you going to need, to raise when you exit this, right? Because Modus is just one of many investors that would be looking to these well-built companies to invest. So again, between the micro and the very, very nitty gritty, and then the macro strategy is probably where people will be living.
Thank you. All right, so one of my last questions really is from both of you, getting an understanding of what sort of outcomes you're hoping for from successful graduates of the Ventures Lab program.
The outcome, we want to see successful companies starting and growing from this program. We want to see success stories, problems being solved in the UAE and in the region, and then seeing tech talent, of course, grow and thrive in this program and achieve things that haven't been achieved before. So we want people who are thinking big, ambitious, able to work hard, and then grow these businesses from Hub71 and from the Ventures Lab.
Yeah, and to add on to that, obviously we want successful companies, right? We want companies that are going to go on to solve problems and create value in the market, right? And if you create value, the financial returns 100% will come, right? You never had a company create value and not be rewarded with some sort of financial gains. So for us, similar to what Nader said, building successful companies that solve problems, but also educating founders. Not all startups are going to be successful, right? And that also includes for those that are going to go through Ventures Lab. This isn't a guarantee on 100% we're going to make your company work. What we will do is we will equip you with the best opportunity to succeed with our know-how and our knowledge, helping you avoid first-timer mistakes, providing that guidance, providing that operational support, but it's not guaranteed. The takeaway from, I don't want to call it a failure, but the learning experience is that this is a very, 9 months is a long time to be embedded in an educational ecosystem where you're being educated through action, right? And that's one of the things that is, that we look to do is actually empower these founders with the knowledge and know-how that, okay, if you miss the first time, there's going to be a second and a third time, right? And having that critical knowledge transfer where, they understand and they've retained it over a long period of time will give them a better opportunity for success if they don't succeed the first time, right? So really investing in that human capital and supporting entrepreneurs with that education is also a success for us.
I'm wondering if there was anything that we haven't touched on. Is there any kind of last, my always last question to anyone I interview is always, is there something you expected me to ask that I didn't ask?
I'm looking at the questions, Kelsey, and maybe Kareem, you can talk a lot of questions about the equity and the financial commitments from the entrepreneur. So just give maybe a general view from your side, Kareem, on what the expectation should be, right? I know you can't give specific because it depends on company per company, but what the expectation should be around what the investment is and what the the commitment from the founder, if any, should be financially, please.
Yeah, so the founder doesn't have to contribute any financial commitment, nothing more than their time and their sweat, right? That's really what they need to bring to the table. We put in a combination of cash and sweat equity alongside of them. It's all funded by investors. It's important for founders to understand that because we provide the operational expertise, this team has to get paid from somewhere, and that somewhere is investment, right? So it's investment in the form of services in addition to money, right? So it's very easy to overlook and see and say that, okay, it's not my cash in hand, so it's not an investment. Respectfully, that's really not true. It's not the case. So as far as the equity component, look, it's again very tailored to each specific company. If you have an MVP that's been out in the market for a year or two, but you're still early stage, you haven't taken in any institutional money, and you've got that early traction, but what you need to do is, like, let's say, clean up your product, get it hyper focused on the industry or what it is that you've essentially identified as the right opportunity after operating, and then need the support in, you know, being ready to raise funds, et cetera. That's going to be significantly less equity, right? Could be 5%, 7% equity in the company. On the complete other end of the spectrum, let's say you're just with an idea, you haven't raised capital, you haven't produced any minimal viable product, you know, like a traditional, you know, co-founding partner, you know, you can expect for it to be, you know, somewhere in the 15-20% equity range, right? But again, it's completely tailored to the to what each company needs operationally.
Somebody had a question about the application requirement on geographies and total addressable market. They didn't understand the 3 brackets. I don't know what that's in reference to, but does that ring any bells to either of you?
So geography, you know, obviously the company should be based out of Abu Dhabi and Hub71, like Nader mentioned, but it could be operating in other markets, right? It could be that you first set up in the UAE, in Abu Dhabi, you begin to expand out to other Emirates, and then from there you can go to other MENA countries, right? You know, Saudi is a very big market. Egypt is an even bigger market, right? So this is all in the growth potential of a company. So from a geographic perspective, you know, start local, grow, you know, grow international. So there is that opportunity. It's not restricted to companies who will only operate right within Abu Dhabi. I'm sorry, what was the second question? Was around total
addressable market. Okay.
Yeah. So this, I'm not sure I really understand the question, but where this would kind of come into play in the application process is, okay, we've identified that there is a problem and that this idea is a good solution. Now, is there enough room in the market for this solution to be a viable business, right? And that's, I think, where the addressable market comes in. You know, you can create an awesome product that will, you know, solve a really, really big problem, but if it's only solving it for, you know, 50 people, that's not enough to really build a viable business out of, you know? So I think that's where the total available market comes in. So that assessment usually comes in it's definitely a core part of the application process, right? Is it commercializable? And then is there enough demand, right? Locally, regionally, internationally, to make it worth going after this?
Somebody else asked about just demonstrating traction. Is that something that you look for at this early stage, or is there any kind of metric that you might want to see on an application to show that there's some public interest?
So they don't have to have traction, because traction, you know, is indicative of having a product that's actually been gone out into the market. So they don't, right? If you're at an idea stage, you're probably not going to have, traction. You know, I think independent research is great, right? If you have an idea and you have the ability to, you know, spend some time, understand some very basic research methods, and then do some testing, right? Go to, you know, again, to that fintech example. Let's say you're that, you know, banking expert, and you say, okay, I have a KYC product. Tap your network, right? Don't go to your friends, because your friends may give you a biased, you know, response. Oh yeah, no, I think it's a great idea, buddy. Like, go for it, you know. But go out to your network and see if you can get validation. Do some study groups. Ask some people. Say, you know, what do you think? And try to make it as unbiased as possible. I think that's always a good indicator. We, of course, will come in as part of this and further support and define that before really going into building the MVP. But it is always helpful.
Nader, do you have any kind of final thoughts before we wrap up? I'm seeing questions continue to roll in, but I'm wondering if maybe we can just drop the best contact information for kind of continuing the conversation or any more questions.
Yeah, look, I appreciate the engagement and the questions. We're happy to answer them all today and of course later. I see a lot of focus on, you know, the criteria. This is about you coming in. This is about the founder. First and foremost, it's about the founder. It's about attracting the right people who can build businesses. So You don't have to have all the answers ready before you apply. You don't have to have the full, business plan maybe going on, but share with us your ideas. Try to submit as much info as possible, and let's have that conversation. We want to make sure we, help you create certainty throughout the uncertainty that you face, of course, as an early stage founder. So I've shared the link. Please go there and look at some of the criteria, but feel free to apply, and we will be able to screen, understand better, and have a conversation. So reach out to us, and we'll share some information on contact as well after this.
It's going to be, I want to give both of you the final word. So Kareem, if you have any final kind of thoughts, words of inspiration before you send these applicants off to hopefully apply, what would they be?
Big shoes to fill following Nader, but I'll try. So very, very similar things. One thing that he mentioned is the value, right? The value is in the people, right? And that's where we invest, right? We invest in people, and I know you probably hear this from a lot of other investors because it is it is the underlying factor. We invest in people. Again, don't be shy, don't be scared. Come, let's have that conversation. We're here to help, right? We're here to think through it with you. So definitely take that first step. Again, don't be bashful on it, and know that what you will find with Ventures Lab is a major ecosystem and a really nitty gritty, like we know how to build companies team that is going to partner with you and help you create that value, right? We're going to invest in you, we're going to invest in the company, and we're going to build some pretty amazing stuff together.
So on that note, good to talk to you guys. I'm looking forward to hopefully covering one of these startups in the newspaper someday. And if anyone has any questions, follow the link through Hub71, and good luck with your applications.
Thank you, Kelsey.
Thanks, Kelsey. Thanks, Nader.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Take care.